90 days. That's all I'm asking you for. Not a lifetime, not forever, just 90 days. Because in 90 days, you can either stay exactly where you are, stuck, doubting, hesitating, or you can become someone even your past self wouldn't recognize. The question is, are you ready to meet that version of you? Commitment is not a mood. It's a decision. Too many people wait until they feel ready, until the energy is high, the motivation is strong, and everything seems aligned. But that's not how real transformation works. Feelings are unpredictable. They rise and fall like waves. If you build your goals on emotions, you'll only move forward when it's easy. And growth doesn't live in easy moments. It lives in consistency, especially when you don't feel like showing up. Commitment means you decide once deeply and firmly that you are going to follow through regardless of how you feel on any given day. When you commit fully, you remove negotiation from your life. There's no daily debate about whether you should work, train, learn, or improve. That internal argument disappears because the decision has already been made. Think about how powerful that is. No wasted energy, no hesitation, no mental back and forth. You don't wake up asking, do I feel like doing this today? You wake up knowing, this is what I do now. That shift alone separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. The moment you eliminate choice, you create discipline, and discipline creates results. Partial commitment is the silent killer of progress. It looks harmless at first, showing up sometimes, trying when it's convenient, putting in effort only when the mood is right. But partial effort produces partial results. It keeps you in a cycle of starting and stopping, building momentum only to lose it again. You can't expect extraordinary change from ordinary effort. Full commitment means you show up even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when nobody is watching. It means you hold the line when distractions call your name and when excuses try to pull you back into old habits. There will be days when your energy is low, your confidence is shaken, and your mind starts whispering doubts. That's where emotional commitment fails, but true commitment stands firm. On those days, you don't rely on inspiration. You rely on your promise to yourself. You remember why you started, and more importantly, you remember who you decided to become. Because commitment is not just about reaching a goal, it's about shaping your identity. Every time you follow through despite resistance, you prove to yourself that you are reliable, strong, and capable of growth. Consistency built on commitment creates a powerful rhythm in your life. It removes the chaos of inconsistency and replaces it with structure and purpose. When you commit fully, your actions align with your goals every single day. You stop wasting time on distractions that don't serve your future. You begin to see progress, not because of sudden bursts of effort, but because of steady, repeated action. Over time, those small daily wins compound into something extraordinary. What once felt difficult becomes routine, and what once felt impossible becomes achievable. Full commitment also requires honesty. You have to be honest about your priorities, your habits, and your willingness to change. You can't say you're committed while still holding on to behaviors that keep you stuck. Commitment demands sacrifice. It asks you to let go of comfort, to say no to things that don't align with your goals, and to stay focused even when it would be easier to quit. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. You may stumble, you may have off days, but a committed person doesn't walk away. They adjust, refocus, and keep going without losing sight of the bigger picture. Discipline is the bridge between who you are today and who you're trying to become. Motivation might get you started, but it's discipline that keeps you moving when the excitement fades. The truth is, motivation is unreliable. It comes in bursts, often when things are new, exciting, or emotionally charged, but it rarely stays long enough to carry you through real transformation. If you depend on motivation, you'll find yourself starting strong and finishing weak over and over again. Discipline, on the other hand, doesn't ask how you feel. It simply demands that you show up and do the work. When you rely on discipline, you stop waiting for the right mood to take action. You begin to operate on standards instead of feelings. You create a non-negotiable system for yourself, whether it's waking up at a certain time, putting in focused hours, or practicing your craft daily. These standards become your baseline, your normal. And once something becomes your normal, it no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes part of who you are. That's the real power of discipline. It transforms effort into identity. You don't just do disciplined things, you become a disciplined person. There will be moments when motivation completely disappears. Days when you feel tired, distracted, or even doubtful about your path. That's where discipline separates you from everyone else. It's easy to show up when you feel inspired. Anyone can do that. But showing up when you're exhausted, when your mind is telling you to stop, when results aren't immediately visible, that's rare. And rarity is where growth lives. Discipline carries you through those silent, difficult moments where most people quit. It keeps you consistent when consistency matters the most. One of the most important aspects of discipline is structure. Without structure, your day becomes vulnerable to distractions, procrastination, and wasted time. Discipline helps you design your environment and your routine in a way that supports your goals. You begin to plan your days with intention, prioritizing what truly matters instead of reacting to whatever comes your way. Over time, this structured approach reduces decision fatigue. You don't have to constantly think about what to do next. You already know. And that clarity allows you to focus your energy on execution rather than indecision. Discipline also builds trust, not with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you reinforce a powerful message. I can count on myself. That self-trust is priceless. It strengthens your confidence, sharpens your focus, and fuels your momentum. On the flip side, every time you break your own promises, you weaken that trust. Discipline ensures that your actions stay aligned with your intentions, and that alignment is what creates real progress. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent enough to keep moving forward. Over time, discipline compounds into results that seem almost unstoppable. Small, repeated actions, done daily, without fail, create a level of progress that motivation alone can never achieve. You begin to notice changes not just in your outcomes, but in your mindset, your habits, and your resilience. What once required effort now feels automatic. What once felt difficult now feels manageable. That's the long-term reward of discipline. It turns struggle into strength and effort into excellence. Excuses are the easiest way to stay exactly where you are. They sound reasonable, they feel justified, and they give you a temporary sense of comfort. But underneath all that, they quietly steal your progress. Every excuse you make becomes a small agreement with staying stuck. I don't have enough time. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. These phrases might seem harmless, but repeated often enough, they become a mindset, a pattern that keeps you from moving forward. If you want real change, you have to recognize excuses for what they truly are, barriers you place in your own path. Taking responsibility is the opposite of making excuses, and it's not always comfortable. It requires you to look at your situation honestly, without blaming circumstances, other people, or bad luck. It means accepting that regardless of where you are right now, you have control over what you do next. That level of ownership can feel heavy at first, but it's also incredibly empowering. Because the moment you stop pointing outward, you regain control inward. You stop waiting for things to change and start becoming the reason they do. Excuses often come from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of success. It's easier to say, I couldn't, than to try and risk not succeeding. But that safety is an illusion. Avoiding action doesn't protect you, it keeps you trapped in the same place. Growth requires you to face those fears head on. It asks you to move forward even when you're unsure, even when you don't feel fully ready. The truth is, you don't eliminate fear by waiting. You eliminate it by acting despite it. Every time you choose action over excuse, you weaken that fear and strengthen your confidence. Another danger of excuses is how convincing they can be. They often come disguised as logic. You tell yourself you need more preparation, more resources, or a better moment to begin. And while those things can be useful, they're rarely the real issue. Most of the time, they're just delays dressed up as strategy. There will never be a perfect time to start. Conditions will never be completely ideal. Waiting for perfection only guarantees that you'll stay in the same place longer. Progress begins the moment you stop overthinking and start doing. Owning your situation doesn't mean ignoring challenges. It means facing them with a solution-focused mindset. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," you start asking, "How can I handle this?" Instead of focusing on what's missing, you focus on what's available. That shift in thinking changes everything. It moves you from a passive role to an active one. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it. And even when progress feels slow, you know you're moving in the right direction because you're taking responsibility for every step. Eliminating excuses is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming accountable. There will still be difficult days, unexpected obstacles, and moments where you fall short. But instead of hiding behind reasons, you face them, learn from them, and keep going. Accountability builds strength. It builds resilience. And most importantly, it builds momentum. Because when you remove excuses, you remove the limits you've been placing on yourself. And that's when real growth begins. Mastering your daily habits is where real transformation begins. Big goals might inspire you, but it's the small, repeated actions that actually get you there. Every day, whether you realize it or not, your habits are shaping your future. The way you start your morning, how you spend your time, what you focus on, and how you respond to challenges, all of it adds up. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your systems are built on your habits. If you want to change your life, you don't need a dramatic overhaul. You need to take control of what you do consistently. The power of habits lies in their simplicity. They don't require massive bursts of energy or extreme effort. Instead, they rely on repetition. Doing something small every single day may not feel significant in the moment, but over time, it creates momentum that's hard to stop. Think about it. Reading a few pages daily, exercising for a short time, practicing a skill consistently. These actions seem minor, but they compound. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before you know it, you've built something meaningful. The key is not intensity, it's consistency. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to change everything at once. They set too many goals, create overwhelming routines, and expect instant results. When that doesn't happen, they lose motivation and fall back into old patterns. Mastery doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things repeatedly. Focus on a few key habits that align with your goals and commit to them. Start small, but stay consistent. Progress is not about how fast you move. It's about how steadily you keep going. Your environment plays a crucial role in shaping your habits. If your surroundings are filled with distractions, temptations, and negativity, it becomes much harder to stay consistent. On the other hand, a supportive environment makes good habits easier and bad habits harder. This means being intentional about what you allow into your space, whether it's the people you interact with, the content you consume, or the physical setup of your daily routine. When your environment supports your goals, discipline becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural flow. Tracking your habits is another powerful way to stay in control. What gets measured gets managed. When you keep track of your daily actions, you create awareness, and awareness leads to improvement. It doesn't have to be complicated. A simple checklist, a journal, or even a mental note can help you stay accountable. Seeing your progress, even in small increments, reinforces your commitment and keeps you motivated. It reminds you that every day matters and every action counts. Mastering your habits also requires patience. Results don't show up immediately, and that can be frustrating. But habits work quietly in the background, building strength and progress over time. There will be moments when it feels like nothing is changing, but that's often right before the breakthrough. The key is to trust the process and stay consistent, even when the results aren't visible yet, because eventually those small daily actions will catch up. And when they do, the transformation will feel almost unstoppable. Embracing discomfort is not something most people naturally choose, but it is where every meaningful transformation begins. Comfort feels safe, predictable, and easy, but it also keeps you exactly where you are. Growth, on the other hand, demands that you step into unfamiliar territory where outcomes aren't guaranteed and challenges test your limits. If you always choose what's comfortable, you'll avoid struggle, but you'll also avoid progress. The reality is simple. The life you want exists outside the comfort zone you're protecting. Discomfort often shows up as resistance. It's that inner voice telling you to stop, to rest, to delay, or to avoid something difficult. It appears when you try something new, push your limits, or face uncertainty. Most people interpret this feeling as a sign to quit, but it's actually a signal that you're growing. Discomfort means you're stretching beyond what's familiar. It means you're challenging your current version of yourself. Instead of running from it, you have to learn to recognize it as a necessary part of progress. One of the biggest shifts you can make is changing how you respond to difficulty. Instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That simple change in perspective turns obstacles into opportunities. Every challenge carries a lesson, whether it's building patience, resilience, focus, or strength. When you begin to see discomfort as a teacher rather than an enemy, you stop fearing it. You start using it. And that's when growth accelerates. Avoiding discomfort may feel good in the moment, but it comes with a hidden cost. It leads to stagnation, regret, and a sense of unfulfilled potential. You might feel temporary relief by choosing the easy path, but over time that ease becomes a limitation. On the other hand, choosing discomfort, waking up early, pushing through fatigue, taking risks, facing fears, creates a different kind of feeling. It's not always pleasant in the moment, but it builds pride, confidence, and inner strength. It reminds you that you're capable of more than you thought. Discomfort also builds resilience. Every time you push through something difficult, you increase your ability to handle future challenges. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once intimidated you becomes routine. This is how strength is built, not through ease, but through repeated exposure to difficulty. Over time, your tolerance for discomfort increases, and with it, your capacity to grow. You stop seeing challenges as threats and start seeing them as part of your normal path. Learning to embrace discomfort doesn't mean seeking pain for its own sake. It means understanding its value. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It means staying committed even when things feel difficult, uncertain, or inconvenient. Because every time you lean into discomfort instead of avoiding it, you move one step closer to becoming stronger, more capable, and more resilient of you. The one who no longer runs from difficulty is the one who becomes truly unstoppable. Focusing on becoming rather than proving is a shift that changes everything about how you approach your journey. When you're driven by the need to prove something to others, to society, or even to your past, you place your energy on external validation. You start measuring your progress by how others react, what they think, and whether they acknowledge your efforts. But that kind of focus is unstable. It depends on opinions you can't control. True growth begins when you stop performing for the outside world and start building for yourself. The need to prove often comes from insecurity or comparison. You look around, see what others are doing, and feel the pressure to match or exceed it. That pressure can push you to work harder, but it can also distract you from your own path. You begin chasing recognition instead of improvement. You focus on outcomes that are visible instead of processes that are meaningful. And in doing so, you lose sight of what really matters, your personal evolution. Becoming is internal. It's about who you are when nobody is watching, not who you appear to be when everyone is. When you focus on becoming, your standards change. You stop asking, how do I look? And start asking, who am I becoming through this? That question leads to deeper growth. It pushes you to develop qualities like discipline, patience, integrity, and resilience. These are not things you can fake or display temporarily. They are built over time through consistent effort. And once they become part of you, they influence every area of your life. You don't just achieve goals, you become the kind of person who can achieve even greater ones. External validation is temporary. Even when you receive praise, recognition, or approval, it doesn't last. You'll always need more of it to feel satisfied, and that creates a cycle that never truly fulfills you. Internal growth, however, is lasting. When you focus on becoming better, stronger, and more capable, the results speak for themselves. You don't have to prove anything. Your actions, your discipline, and your consistency make it clear, and more importantly, you feel it within yourself. That quiet confidence is far more powerful than any external applause. Focusing on becoming also gives you freedom. You're no longer tied to other people's expectations or opinions. You can move at your own pace, follow your own path, and define success on your own terms. This allows you to take risks, make mistakes, and learn without fear of judgment. You understand that growth is not linear and that setbacks are part of the process. Instead of trying to appear perfect, you focus on making progress. And that mindset keeps you moving forward no matter what challenges arise. In the end, becoming is a lifelong process. It doesn't stop once you reach a certain goal or milestone. There is always another level to reach, another lesson to learn, another version of yourself to uncover. When you embrace this mindset, you shift from chasing results to building a foundation. You become someone who is constantly evolving, constantly improving, and constantly striving for more, not to prove your worth, but to realize your potential. And after those 90 days, you won't need to tell anyone what you've done. You won't need to prove anything, explain anything, or seek validation, because it will show in the way you think, in the way you move, in the way you carry yourself when things get hard. You'll walk differently, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You'll speak differently, not with noise, but with purpose. You act differently because discipline, focus, and resilience are no longer things you try, they're who you are. This isn't about perfection. It's about transformation. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't quit when it's inconvenient, who doesn't settle for less than their potential. So when those 90 days are over, you won't just have results, you'll have proof. Not for the world, but for yourself.